Boy, it's just bizarre story in college football over the last few days. So Lane Kiffin is hired as the head coach of LSU, and he leaves Ole Miss. It's a whole, scandal and controversy, and it goes to some of Lane's previous history. Before we do that, let's go and play the Lane Kiffin soundbite, if we have them to show. Lane Kiffin talking to Marty Smith, who did the Lord's work covering this in Oxford, Mississippi. Lane Kiffin talking about his departure from the Ole Miss Rebels.
That this was a very challenging, difficult day. We went through a lot last night with Keith Carter, trying to figure out a way, to make this playoff, run work and be able to coach the team. And at the end of the day, that's his decision. And I totally respect that. I understand that decision. And, so I just totally wish the team the best of luck, wish that I was coaching, but understand that it was a very challenging position for him and the chancellor to be in, and totally respect that. So, just really hope they play really well and go win the national championship.
So what he's referring to is the fact that Ole Miss, understandably, is not going to allow him to coach the college football playoff, which Ole Miss is going to make, right? They're 11-1. They're going to get in. They've had a fantastic season, one of the best in the history of their football program. And Lane Kiffin's leaving to go to LSU, and there's a lot of controversy around it. So let me start with the Lane side of this. So Lane, to say the very least, was highly successful at Ole Miss. We'll show you the record. It's pretty fantastic, right? He won 74% of his games, won 60% of his games against the SEC. He winning record against top 25 teams, 4 10-win seasons, 2 top 10 finishes, including this year. And since he joined Ole Miss as their head coach in 2020, they are 8th in the country in points per game, 36 PPG points per game. It has Lane Kiffin put up at Ole Miss. That is 8th best in college football in that span. On Lane's side of this, do I blame him for going to LSU? I can't say I do blame him. When you're talking about NIL resources, when you talk about the fact that, again, with respect to Ole Miss, they are, by and large, kind of an also-ran in the SEC. They are just another program. They are a team they play every year in the Egg Bowl. They are Mississippi State. As far as football is concerned, they are Kentucky. I mean, we're not talking about something, by and large, not a blue blood program, Missouri. There's a different level. There's LSU, there's Alabama, there's Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma. Like, these are the blue blood programs of the SEC. And they want you to coach their team. It's hard to turn that down. But for those, again, this is so balanced and so layered. I'll get to the NCAA part of it. It's not unfair to criticize how Lane went about this to a certain degree, because his history in this has to matter. When Lane Kiffin becomes the head coach of my Tennessee Volunteers in 2009, and there's some moments, they almost beat Alabama, and okay, maybe there's a bright future, and bam, middle of the night, he goes to USC. It's like, oh, well, where'd that happen? This is Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin. A few years later, he fired on the tarmac at USC. He's left behind as they fly home, like, okay, I guess Lane's not our coach anymore. Then he gets fired by Nick Saban right before the national championship game in 2016 because he was, looking ahead to being the head coach at Florida Atlantic University. Saban fires him right before a national championship game. And now you have this. Is that Lane, and to his credit, because he was, a younger coach, more inexperienced, a little less mature than he is now. Again, to his credit, he's done a lot of work on himself personally. I found Lane to be kind of a likable figure over the last few years. I even think, I'm in the minority of Vols fans that feels this way, but I even think the way that he handled some of the stuff he was dealing with his first game back at Tennessee in 2021, I thought he handled that great. I thought he was appreciative of the fans. He took a golf ball home. I thought he handled it fine. So I've grown to kind of like Lane Kiffin over time. But I understand why folks would say, leaves Tennessee in the middle of the night. Fire on the tarmac at USC. He gets fired by Bama right before a national championship game. And now he leaves Ole Miss right before they're about to make a playoff. So I get that part of it. But to me, the outrage. And similar, and I talked about this with Nico Iamaleava when he transferred last second from Tennessee back in April. The outrage goes to the people in charge. The outrage goes to the NCAA. And Rick Pitino, college basketball coach at St. John's, he summed it up, I think, perfectly in this tweet. Go and pull this up from Rick Pitino. I'm not knocking football, but there's something wrong with their calendar. I'm at St. John's University, and we are potentially a 1 seed and can win the national championship this year, and I leave in March? What's going on here? I think he's 100% right. It's a calendar issue. The fact that there's this many recruiting windows and transfer portal windows and opportunities for, programs to hire their coach right off the bat the second the season ends, before the postseason even begins. We don't have this in the NFL. We've seen situations. I remember when Kyle Shanahan got the job in San Francisco when he was the Falcons OC. I remember when Dan Quinn also got when he got the Falcons job, 10 years ago to be their head coach, he was still the defensive coordinator in Seattle coaching in a Super Bowl. Like, we've seen coordinators get head coaching jobs, while they're still being employed by the team, but eventually they got to finish the season first. Yes, are they behind the eight ball to a degree with scouting and with building their staff and all those things? Yeah, but that's part of the territory. That's part of the rules in the NFL. College football, non-existent. By and large, kind of transfer whenever you want to a certain degree. There's more. There's early season, as soon as the season's over, you can transfer. You move programs, which Lane Kiffin did, which Brian Kelly has, which Lincoln Riley has. It's a broken system, and people who get on the Lane Kiffins of the world, and certainly those who get on athletes who transfer the second the season's over, ultimately this is a wild, wild west sport in the sense of it really is just every man for himself. It really is every man looking out for his best interest. Where there are no regulations, where there are no guardrails. Again, because y'all know, as I've said this for 6 years on the show, I'm as pro NIL as it gets. I've been saying that college athletes should get paid well before they finally did end up getting paid, before the Supreme Court finally agreed that they should and ruled it unconstitutional for them not to be paid. 100% in favor of that. But there's got to be some guardrails with NIL, and there certainly needs to be guardrails with the transfer portal. It's pretty simple. Once the season's over, once the national championship has concluded, then you're able to start recruiting. Then you're able to hire a head coach or transfer or land some of the guys that you want to land for your program. And some blame does go on Lane in the sense of, man, it's one thing for you to lead, man, but now you're purging our coaching staff. Now you're bringing some of your coaches from Ole Miss to LSU. Like, that's kind of screwed up. Now you're leaving Ole Miss, left for dead before they're in the playoff. Now they got no chance to win. So I totally get why Ole Miss fans are pissed about this. Get why LSU fans are jumping for joy. They should. Lane's a great coach. His history would tell you that. But it's a broken system in the NCAA. Is that when it's a wild, wild west and coaches are doing as they please, players are doing the same thing, transferring whenever they want, moving teams whenever they want, coaching different teams whenever they want. There's no regulation there. There's a free agency period in pro sports. There's a trade deadline. There's an opportunity to hire coaches, but they got to finish their season first. Whereas that's not the case in college football. And I remember, and I said this on Saturday morning tailgate, with my guys Tim Barnard and Arthur Hurst, which is on the Grid Network every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, is that Lane's in a lose-lose spot here. It's either coach LSU and leave your Ole Miss team, left for dead before the playoff, or coach Ole Miss, then go to LSU, but then you are totally behind the eight ball on transfer portal and in recruiting. That's a broken system. Lane should not have to make the decision based on those circumstances. It should be, hey, I can take the LSU job. I want to take the LSU job. It's respect to Ole Miss, but it is a better opportunity than Ole Miss. More resources. But after the season, I can coach this year for Ole Miss, coach the college football playoff, hopefully we go on to win a national championship. Then I leave. But instead, Lane purges the coaching staff. Now again, Ole Miss left for dead before the playoff. And now it's just an ugly situation. And so it's unless you're an LSU fan, it's kind of a bummer all the way around. It obviously sucks for Ole Miss fans. It sucks for college football, and it's a bad look for the sport. There needs to be more guardrails. It's kind of like what I said during the NBA gambling controversy, which I'm sure, as time goes on, we're going to get more information on that. But the solution to everything, it can never be just one way or the other. It's not to outright ban something, NIL, transfer portal, things of that nature. Not an outright ban, but also not free for all. Hey, do what you wish. You can't clamp down the law so much that no one can do anything at all, but there also can't be no law. There's got to be somewhere in between. There has to be regulations. There has to be a central figure, a commissioner, so to speak, of college football who oversees everything. Not an NCAA president who's just as concerned with, rowing as he is with college football. Like it doesn't work. Nothing against rowers, by the way, but we know what the moneymaker is in college sports. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.